Hello, and welcome to United We Thrive, a program of the United Way of Westchester and Putnam. I'm very happy to have here today Rose Noonan from the Housing Action Council in Westchester, Connie Fagan from the Putnam County Housing Corporation, and Michael Goldrick from PCSB. He's the Senior VP and Chief Lending Officer for the bank. I'm very happy to have you here today, and we're going to be continuing our discussion about Alice, about housing, and about our work in the community. And I hope you will stay tuned and enjoy the show. But first, I'd like to tell you just a little bit about what United Way does. We help local residents to be self-sufficient and thrive in a stronger community, your stronger community. We are local. The money raised here stays here to help your community and your residents. And I urge all of you to give, advocate, and volunteer, whether it be with United Way or one of the other wonderful not-for-profits in your community. Working together, we make it a much better place to live, and we all help each other to make it a community that thrives. So United Way helps the local residents to become self-sufficient, thrive in a stronger community, and we do that in a few different ways. The first is that we help people who are not self-sufficient to become self-sufficient. We give people resources through 211, which will help them to connect where they need help. Sometimes a crisis comes in the middle of the night, so we will help 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And please dial 211 if you have a question, you have a problem, you need a resource, and we will help you to make the connection wherever it is possible. We have over 25,000 resources in our directory, and the call center is working. People are trained by national air standards, and those standards tell us how we answer a call, how long the wait time is. If you call and you say you're a veteran, that will help us to direct to specific services. If you are elderly, we'll be able to tell where needs are within the community. In a disaster, we really mobilize and work on the disaster response and connecting people through resources in the disaster. And I'll give you just an example. In Hurricane Sandy, and we're all hearing about the hurricanes these days, but in Hurricane Sandy, we mobilized 200 volunteers and had over 45,000 calls in a 2-week period asking for help. But we also found with that we were getting certain calls, a number of calls from a particular zip code in a particular neighborhood. And these people needed food. These were your upper middle class families. Everything had spoiled because they'd been without electric for so long. And we were able to tell where that need was. We were able to bring together Red Cross, food bank, county government to take a look at the problem. And we determined that the food bank had the food available. They had the generators that were keeping the food fresh, but there was no gas, and they couldn't get the trucks out, nor did they know where the neighborhood was that needed the food. So we were able to pinpoint the neighborhood. We were able to put together our partners. We were able to get gas to the trucks for the food bank, and we were able to get the food out to the residents in need. So that's the kind of thing that we can do through 211. With the current hurricanes that are going on, Irma and Harvey and now Maria and Jose, we're working with the United Way network in the 211 network across the country to meet the needs. We're able, in the case of an emergency like this, to be able to help them with some of their calls, to be able to access their databases, and we've offered to take 211 calls. The state of Florida has said not to bother with the government's 800 numbers to please call 211 because they lost power. And we have a 3-system backup on 211. So one thing goes down, we have 2 more to help us. And if everything is down in our area, we can transfer our calls and our database and our information anywhere in the state or in the country to be able to help. United Way Worldwide has set up 2 disaster funds, one for Irma and one for Harvey right now. Bank of America and American Express are waiving the credit card processing fees. So if we are still in this crisis and you want to be able to help in those areas, you are welcome and encouraged to give through those funds. 100% of the funds raised will go to the disaster recovery. So that's how local not-for-profit, where all of the funding stays local, can also help as a network in other parts of the country. We do share information with each other. We've been working in the area of education to try and get to the roots of poverty, because we know that children who are not reading on grade level at the end of third grade are 6 times more likely to drop out of school and not finish school. We know that they are more likely to get into trouble. Scary fact that some states actually determine what their future prison needs are going to be based on third grade reading scores. And we know that if students are dropping out, they're not getting the education, they're going to be struggling even more. They're not going to have the jobs. And as we talk about the ALICE population, asset limited, income constrained, employed, these students, these children are more likely to be in poverty, and they're also more likely to be ALICE. We also have lots and lots of college graduates who are ALICE. When I take a look at some of the figures, 45% of those of youth under 25 are ALICE. They're having struggle meeting their basic needs for food, needs for housing, which we'll be talking about more today, and affording those things. Seniors are also ALICE, and we have 34% of the seniors in the areas outside of New York City are ALICE population. And actually, there are fewer in poverty and more ALICE in that population because they have such supports as Social Security. But our ALICE population, what really troubles me are those who are in those prime earning years, who are working 1, 2, 3 jobs, and they're still having trouble making ends meet. We're trying to help that population. We have a number of different resources in the community, again, which you can reach through 211 and find out where and what they are. But we also have a prescription program called Familywize Prescription. You can download a free card from the United Way website, Familywize Card. It can be used over and over and over again, or you can download it each time. And what you do is you go to the website, you type in your zip code, you type in whatever the prescription is that you need, and it'll give you 3 pharmacies where you can get that and how much it will cost you. I know from someone close to me that they had a prescription that was going to cost them $120. And I directed them to go to Familywize, and there were 3 pharmacies. One had it for $30, one had it for $15, one had it for $10. So he got the prescription for $10. We have saved residents in this community, I believe it's $150,000 this year in prescription costs. So that is the kind of thing that we're trying to do to help people who are really struggling. And this works even if you have prescription drug coverage. You can still use a Familywize card, and sometimes you can have great savings with it. But today I want to talk a little bit more about ALICE, and I'd like to talk with our guests, Rose Noonan from the Housing Action Council, Connie Fagan from Putnam County Housing Corporation, and Mike Goldrick from PCSB, who is the Senior Vice President and Chief Lending Officer. I know I introduced you before, but you're just so great it's worth introducing you again as we go on a little bit more about our conversation about ALICE, about housing, and about the struggles that people are facing in our community. In our last show, we were able to talk about it a little bit, but I think there's so much more to go into as we talk about housing and the struggles that people are facing. When we were off camera, we were talking a little bit about homelessness in Putnam and Westchester, and I'd like Connie and Rose to just talk a little bit more about that, because if you go down to New York City, you see people who are homeless on every corner. And in Putnam County, it's a little bit hidden. So could you just share a little bit about that?
To be homeless in Putnam County, the general population does not see many homeless people because we don't have the sidewalks that people would be on, or the larger areas or more urban areas where people would be congregating. So a lot of our homeless population is hidden. We have had issues where people have been sleeping in the woods, sleeping in their cars. It's very difficult to be homeless in Putnam and be able to access those services that can help you in terms of finding housing. Because of the HUD Housing Choice Voucher Program, as Rose mentioned, our waiting list was open in February and then closed again. So someone who all of a sudden finds themselves at a situation of being homeless or at risk of homelessness can't even apply to get the federal rental subsidy.
So I think people generally don't believe we have people who are homeless in Putnam County, but they are living in cars. They are living in woods.
Yes, it's very difficult, and it's, as I said, because it's not as visible as it might be in Westchester, where it's a little bit more, urban. It's difficult to see the people, and a lot of them are reluctant to even come for help. At our organization, because we provide a permanent rental subsidy, we can't assist somebody who comes in as homeless because we don't have those resources.
What about in Westchester, Rose?
Well, in Westchester, we're fortunate to have an excellent shelter system, as I'll refer to it as, where throughout the county there are what we refer to as emergency apartments where people can live there temporarily, and also the shelters where people are in tighter conditions, and there are providers that are helping people to move toward greater self-sufficiency. They would also be saying, though, that finding permanent housing is one of their most difficult challenges. But I don't think we should just think of homelessness as a person who's residing in a shelter or someone that's on the street, or then the many hidden homeless in Putnam County. But more, there are so many people who are doubled up. They are tripled up, living with families and friends and not able to stay there a very long period of time. So they're, as we refer to them, couch surfing. And when you look at that, it's so hard for a person's life. How can they hold the 2 or 3 jobs that they need in order to afford housing? How do they maintain stable environments for their children? And so, as a community, I think we need to keep exploring this, keep developing affordable housing, which we are. We have many constraints, but we also need to make sure that the homeless population and those who are employed, who have modest incomes, take advantage of the opportunities that exist. People are sometimes not aware of those opportunities.
It's interesting. I was at a meeting, the 16th state now is doing an ALICE study. We were the 15th. And we all get together periodically. We share information and try to support each other, help each other as we take a look at the ALICE problem. And there was a woman from Connecticut. Connecticut did their study about 3 years ago. And she's a professional. She went to Yale in some kind of neuro blah, 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 blah that I don't understand, and they wouldn't even let me into audit in one of those classrooms. They're for the really, really smart people. And she had gotten her master's, and she was married, had 2 children, things were going well, and the marriage started to go down the tubes. And her husband became violent, and she felt she had to leave. And what she did was she left the home. She couldn't get employed. She was overqualified for so many things and underqualified for professionally what she wanted to do. She was just starting a doctoral program in this neuroscience, and she didn't know what to do. She ended up living with her 2 children in the basement of her parents' home. And, luckily she had that resource available to her. she said she was really distraught. She didn't know what she would do, and she reached out through 211, and they started to be able to connect her to services and help her to get her back on her feet. And it was a number of services that are through a number of not-for-profits, and she now is in a professional position, owns her own home, is back on her feet, children are doing well. And it's the kind of thing that you think your life is going really well, and all of a sudden you're faced with something out of your making. You know, in this case, it was domestic violence and a marriage gone sour. It might be an illness. It could be that you lose your job. There are any number of things that can happen when you're planning your life, and you're planning your life to be on track. It's on track. You're working hard, you're working your jobs, you're trying to better yourself, you're going to school. We had a young man, we're doing a partnership. Our 211 takes calls from Long Island all the way up past the Adirondack region in New York State. And we take calls for Rockland County, for Ulster, for Sullivan out of Westchester. And one of the things that we've done in partnership with Rockland Community College is that they found that students, once they were enrolled in a class, the class was going on part way, and all of a sudden they were doing what they called late drops. It was after the time when you can drop a class. You know, they were registered, they paid their tuition and everything. And they realized that the late drops were being caused because there were other circumstances in these people's lives. And they found in one case, it was a young man, as you're talking about the homelessness. Here he was enrolled in community college. He was living in his car. He was trying to work. He had a child who he was trying to take care of and trying to go to school, trying to better himself. And they made the connections through 211, and that late drop has gone from 51% to 21%. And it just shows when you can pull together those community resources and connect people. You know, you think, here's somebody who's going to school, they're working hard, and they're homeless. So, you know, Connie and Rose, those are, you know, some of the homeless population that you're talking about. They're not people who don't care, who are mentally ill necessarily, or drug addicted, or whatever. These are people who have hit a bump in the road. And we as community agencies are there to help them.
And some of these people are our children.
Some of them are our children. And, you know, that's interesting. Do you want to speak about that?
I'm having 4 daughters who are dispersed through the world. They have gone through their ups and downs of not being able to afford housing. And, you know, fortunately they had someone like myself in the field to talk to and be able to set their credit straight, as Mike, you need in your type of profession. Be aware of affordable housing opportunities. They did have a line to what might be available that they could think of. I heard your prescription assistance. I have let them know about that availability. So it's you and me. You know, it's whether it's our children, or if we were younger, it's our elderly parents. Those are the ones who need assistance.
You know, it's interesting because you mentioned the millennial population. What are we seeing with them? What are the trends with them? Mike, are you seeing them coming in for mortgages, or?
We are. The millennials are definitely a different breed. The use of technology is huge. But there's also some limitations. We were talking before about the fact that the millennial population is, you know, that is in the workforce, is making a salary, but maybe not a salary that's high enough in order to afford the living space. So we're seeing more millennials living at home, or the millennials having to team up with 1, 2, 3 or more friends in order to make that, you know, living accommodation affordable to them. So that's probably the biggest challenge that we're seeing from millennials in the aspect of home ownership or affordability from that aspect.
So you see a great demand for rental housing
Right.
among millennials, but some of the same services that we've always provided with respect to credit is credit counseling, budget counseling is as important to rent as it is to own. More and more private management companies, they're running the same type of credit report or consumer reports as a bank would. And if you don't meet the threshold requirements, you're also not going to be able to rent. So I tend to be a big advocate of the financial education and the one-to-one counseling on budgeting, on credit, and on mortgaging, because my assumption is that eventually millennials will want to buy homes. It's an investment opportunity. And we do see millennials seeking our services for home ownership counseling, but we do see a greater demand for affordable rental housing than affordable home ownership at the current time.
Correct, and one of the things that we are definitely seeing, and Rose, you jogged my brain on this one, is the debt load and the student loan debt load. So that definitely impacts that credit counseling, that credit report, as well as the income ability in order to apply and afford a car loan, house loan, whatever it is on that end of it.
And many people are not aware, many young people are not aware of the impact that the student debt has on their employment history, if it affects their credit, on buying a home, on renting. But fortunately, there are approaches to addressing student debt now, which you find out about through financial education, through student loan webinars, some of the things that United Way is doing, as well as probably Connie and I are also doing. And there's a way of even working for nonprofits now where you can reduce that overall student loan debt. So I encourage people who feel like they're struggling or are actually struggling, as we know many are. If there's student debt, come and talk to a counselor. They might be able to at least help you plan how you're going to deal with that debt over time, how you might reduce it more quickly, how you might consolidate. And there are those resources out there to help people with that.
And I think the important thing is it's free. It's free, it's confidential. We have certified counselors at the agencies that can help you. So I think a lot of times people, when they don't realize we exist until they need us. And oftentimes, if they had been more aware of the services that we could offer them, we might have helped them avoid situations that they're in. But especially with young college people and young people, the millennials coming out, I mean, the financial counseling, it absolutely is necessary for them going forward because it does affect jobs. They're looking to see how responsible you are with your finances if that's part of their vetting of potential employees.
Could you talk a little bit, and it's fascinating, I know that it even affects the rates that people are getting on car loans or whatever else, and I know transportation is a big issue here as well, but what I'd like to do is, while we have some time remaining, is just have you talk about some of the things your agency does, some of the different services that you provide through your agency.
Well, in Putnam County, because as I mentioned earlier, we don't have the opportunities for new construction, we have home improvement programs. One is called Restore, which is funded through the state, New York State Housing and Community Renewal, and it provides up to $10,000 in emergency repairs for seniors, homeowners who are seniors. This past winter, we got a call from an elderly woman who had raised her family. They all still live in Putnam. She had no water and her roof was leaking. So we were able to drill a new well for her, and with another program we were able to leverage additional money through the New York State Affordable Housing Corporation Home Improvement Program, and that provides up to $32,500. So we were able to give her a new roof and water.
Wow. Rose, what about in your agency?
Well, I'll talk about our housing development activities, as there's a great need for more affordable housing. The Housing Action Council participates with municipalities, other nonprofits, and for-profit developers to develop affordable housing. I've got to give kudos to the town of Somers, where they have really increased the number of their affordable housing units over the past 5 or 6 years, and we are currently marketing affordable rental apartments. Soon to be marketed will be a senior development, another family development, and also in the future, probably break ground in March of 2018, we'll be constructing affordable two-family homes. And so you'll see that in a number of the communities in Westchester. In my opinion, many of the municipalities are embracing the need for affordable housing and figuring out ways on how it can be developed. And we're in a fortunate position where we're marketing most of the affordable housing units in Westchester County. We are soliciting applications from anywhere and everywhere.
You know, I think, Mike.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm also happy to say that we've worked with Rose and Agreed Somers. We've been a part of that project, or parts of the project, and happy to say that we've been able to collaborate together in helping bring that to the table, and Somers has done a great job there. But that also stresses the importance of either the private-public type cooperation, the business non-for-profit type cooperation, and on that end of it, happy to say that PCSB Bank has formed a charitable foundation. We recently converted from mutual ownership to stock ownership, and with that funded a charitable foundation with $5 million that we hope that we continue to spread out amongst the non-for-profits in the community, including United Way, including the Housing Action Council and Putnam County Housing as well.
So I hope that this has been enlightening and that you've learned a lot more that you hadn't really thought about in terms of housing and the struggles in the community, and about the not-for-profits, the businesses, the banks that are trying to help to solve a problem, and that people should not be ashamed if they realize that they're Alice. Alice walks among us, and we as a community are united to be able to help Alice and every resident who's struggling in Westchester and Putnam County. The not-for-profits are amazing in this community, and we urge you to join us by giving, advocating, and volunteering with the not-for-profits in your community, because united, we thrive. Have a